So my one thing that I would say is find the people in your network now and reach out to them, even just to connect. Say hello. I'd love to go to lunch. I'd love to get together. Um, if they're busy and you don't have a close relationship, you want to come up with a purpose and a reason to meet. But I guarantee you have a lot of friends in your network that need things that you can provide and have things that will help you move forward.
Hey guys, I wanted to jump in here really quick to give you a free gift for listening to the Lucky Titan podcast. This is going to be something that is truly going to revolutionize your business. Cannot wait for you to see it. Check this out.
Are you ready to share your message with the world? Introducing PitchDB, the all-in-one platform revolutionizing the way speakers connect with podcasts, conferences, and media outlets. With access to over 3 million platforms, finding your perfect speaking opportunity has never been easier. Our AI integrations create personalized bios and pitches, setting you apart from the crowd. Join the movement of speakers taking the world stage today. Join now at pitchdb.com.
Wasn't that awesome? I am so excited about PitchDB, and thank you, PitchDB, for giving us the free 1-month trial to anybody who's a listener of the Lucky Titan podcast. So guys, if you want to claim this, all you have to do is click the link somewhere here in the description or head to pantheon.fm/pitch. Once again, guys, that's pantheon.fm/pitch. Cannot wait to see you guys there. So now let's hop into the episode. Welcome back to the Lucky Titan podcast. I'm here with Chip Hopper. Guys, you probably heard this in the intro, but I'm very excited for this conversation. Chip and I have been going back and forth. We were just joking about this. Probably the biggest game of cat and mouse of like, I don't know if that's even the right thing to say, but I'm trying to get on each other's calendars. Chip, you've been great about that, man. So I appreciate it. This is going to be a great interview. So say what's up to everybody first off, and then we'll hop in.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Great to be here. Yeah, a little cat and mouse if you consider like power outages and like moving around and what connection things. It's like, I guess it's Tom and Jerry in the, in the new age, right?
Yeah, honestly, we have power outages in our building probably once a week right now. It's a very old building, and they do not maintain it well. So
we got good Wi-Fi now. We got good power now, so we're all good to go. And this will be fun.
We hit record, and I can actually still see your face. It's not going around. So, all right, Chip. First off, you got a lot going, man. I mean, we met. So people will hear this intro, but we met, down at Sean Finnegan's event in, where was it? Provo?
Yeah,
somewhere around that area. It's all one giant city to me.
At Bennett's place.
What was that?
Yeah, Dirty Dough.
Yes, yeah, great place. I got to talk to that guy still. He hasn't come on the show yet.
Yeah, I've got to get him on here. What he's doing down there is amazing.
Yeah. You guys are all doing amazing things. Sean Finnegan knows how to put on a great room. So, okay. So Chip, I want to ask you this because, we've been back and forth on a few different things. I wanted to really highlight your company, Book Jedi, today. And I wanted to get a really clear understanding, and for my audience, for them to be able to understand really what's the big problem that you're solving and who you solve it for.
I love that. That's a fantastic question. And one of the things I love to say is that the better the question, the better the result, right? Better questions lead to better answers and better information. And what Book Jedi does is it started kind of as this concept of the framework of books. And, I worked with Stephen Covey back in the 90s. And one of the things I loved about working with him was he had these 7 habits. And there wasn't anything new or unique about any of these habits. It was just how the framework that he put them in that resonated really well with people. And I really got into frameworks and helping people with those, built relationships with authors, which is an interesting story we can come back to if we want to. But what Book Jedi is now is I help people tell their stories, because our lives are defined by the stories we tell and by the people we know. And if we can tell our stories in a way that creates the life that we want, then our potential is limitless.
Yeah. It was interesting, Chip. I was talking to, who was I talking to about this the other day? I'd never really considered this. It was another author, but Lou Vickery, that's who it was. Anyways, he was telling me, this guy's like 87-year-old, used to be a New York Yankee. Like, he's done it all. I mean, the guy's had like 8 different successful careers, and he's just kind of bored right now. But he was telling me, he's like, Josh, there's he's one of the few 87-year-olds I know who actually understands content very well. He's like, I love podcasts, I love, social media content, I love all of it. But he's like, there's only one form of content that can outlive you, and it made me think about it a lot, because yes, we're putting out podcast content. Sometimes it can last for a few years, and people might occasionally find it here or there, and who knows, maybe one day it'll be like a book. A book is something physical that sits on somebody's shelf and is going to get
Right.
passed on to the next person, or it's going to get sent through, brought to Goodwill or whatever, and then it ends up somebody else gets it in their hands, right? It's always interesting to me that a book it's really the only piece of content that can last literally forever, right? Which is so interesting. So I'm kind of curious, because the people that you're working with when you're helping them write books, it's telling their story. But do you like working with a specific group of people with this? Like, is it you like the older category, or do you like working with anybody with a story?
Yeah, I really think that everyone has a story, right? And obviously a lot of my audience is celebrities and professional athletes, and I work with people that are very high end, but I believe everybody has a story, and that's one of the reasons that not only do I work individually with people, but I also do group masterminds and things that that's where I can bring just about anybody the opportunity for a story. For me, like I've always been a believer that I don't want money to be the reason that someone isn't able to do something. Uh, so when you can create different ways for people to do things to get their message out there, what I look for is people that are ready to take action, ready to move, and that's really the biggest thing there. So
Yeah. Well, so out of curiosity, though, I mean, like you said, you work with celebrities, you work with pro athletes, all this. How'd you get the first one? I mean, getting in the door with somebody like that, if people say that, and I'm like, great, how did you do it? 'Cause, I mean, I have a buddy
yeah,
who does podcast production for really, really successful people, and he just whoops into Mark Cuban's company, Like, how the heck, how'd you do it?
yeah, that's a fantastic question. For me, you know, I've always been an avid reader, always loved reading, and when I was coming out of let's see, was this was in the 90s, I started reading a book a week, and I've read a book a week since then. And a lot of them are in personal development, but I also love sci-fi and fantasy and you name it. But as I would read some of these books, what I started doing was I would actually write to the authors, and I would write a letter because back then that's what you did, you know, and or I'd find a phone number, but I would send them a message somehow that said, "Look, I loved this book. It really impacted my life. Chapter 7 and this concept was really meaningful to me." And these authors, some great authors just started responding to me. They would respond and say, thanks. They would get into a conversation with me. Many of them started they would reach out when they had a new book coming out, and they would say, "Hey, you want to read my new book before it comes out?" And I'd be like, "Absolutely. I would love that." Right.
Yeah.
And so I'd read these books, and then a couple of times I was like, "Hey, are you interested in any feedback?" I would, and they'd be like, "Sure. I'd love your feedback." And so I would edit the entire book and send it back to them. And I would get responses like, "Holy, this is amazing."
And how'd you do that?
And they're like, "Would you like to work on my next book after, before it comes out?" And I started getting editing jobs with, names that are now some of the biggest names out there. And as they had friends that were very well connected, and they would say, "Hey, I have a celebrity or an athlete that wants to get into speaking, wants to tell their story." And it was, to me, when people say, "How did you make the relationships that you have?" To me, the answer is one relationship at a time, right? It's about building trust. It's about adding value. And then it's about, delivering on what you say you're going to do. And,
Yeah, that's so
and,
good.
and that's really how it started for me.
We talk about this a lot on this show, about how people are getting in the door with the right people, and whether it's a mentor, a client, or whatever. And what's unique about your story was that, I mean, that immense amount of value. I mean, editing an entire book probably took what, 2, 3 days?
It would depend on the author, right? Some
Yeah,
authors are better than others, but yeah, a week, a couple weeks sometimes to edit a book, fitting it in around other things. Uh,
right.
But yeah, it's a
It
fair
wasn't a
amount of work
full-time
to edit
thing.
a book. Yeah.
Well, I look at that though, Chip, and this is what's so unique about it because we're always telling people, like, you got to go make a story, and don't make it up. You actually have to go make it happen. And when people talk about giving somebody value, it's always, oh, I'm going to give them a lead magnet or like a
Mhm.
one-page checklist, and you're like, you're going to
My
reap.
course.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. You're going to reap what you sow. Right. In fact, we one time, even in our own company, we launched, it was a course I'd been running for years. We were charging a couple grand for the course. I ended up just starting to give it away because we stopped promoting it heavily and started giving it away. And I remember that was when all of a sudden we started attracting a better clientele
Mhm.
because they're like, whoa, you're willing to give that much value. And then they would end up ascending. So like, how'd I get this for free? Right. And not to say that that's the best way to do it, because I still agree with the way you did it of more of a personal connection. Um, it's just interesting to me that you're able to get them to move by just providing the right type of value.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. Nobody wants to be sold, but we
right.
all want to find what we need. Right. And so if you can deliver value, and whether it's like even the course, like I joke about it a little bit because everybody's like, I'm going to give you so much value. Here's my course for free. And right. But the course doesn't do anything unless it actually brings value to you. So you have to give it to the right person in the right time. But if you can ask the questions to find out what a person is looking for, what they need, and then you can help them solve that, then you can create anything that you want with an
Right.
edit.
Well, and just solve their big problem, right? I think a lot of times we try to weasel our way around because the big problem is usually blatantly obvious. You don't even have to ask. It's like, hey, I'm having problems with this, right? I'm in a lot of cases, it's like I'm having a problem with a lead generation. Wow, I'm going to stutter on this show a few times. Lead generation. Having a problem, like writing a book, getting an editor, and having somebody actually look at it. It was a brilliant tactic. I don't even know if it sounds like you weren't even trying to make it a tactic at first. You were just saying, hey,
No,
I'm going to give value.
I was just going to give value, and in fact, I was working a corporate job for I didn't leave corporate until 20. I was running
Wow.
companies, building companies, and but I was doing books on the side and doing the stuff I loved, and it was finally just one of those things where it's like, oh, I could actually make more money than I'm making now
Right.
doing this. And, so coming into it with the value, I think it's important that you have clarity in what you're able to bring into the situation. Right.
Right.
I've heard a lot of people say, like, if you walk up to, say you walk up to a billionaire and you say, what is it that you need and how can I help you? What you're really doing is saying, here, you come up with an answer and then I'll see if I can fill it. Right.
Yeah.
If I can go up though and say, hey, I heard that you're trying to write a book. Did you know that I do that? And I would love to like help lay out a chapter for you, or, lay out the structure of that, right? Create, find the things that they're looking for, and then be able to show and demonstrate where you can fit into it instead of just asking them where you can help, because that just
Right.
gives them something else that they have to do. Right.
Yeah.
It's the same, like, if you want someone to recommend you, to me, a recommendation and feedback on how you did are two separate things. A recommendation is a marketing piece. And if you want someone to create a marketing piece for you, then help them know what that looks like. So if I came to you and I said, would you mind saying that I was a fantastic guest on your podcast and you really enjoyed having me on? And then ask you if you would put your name on that, because as it's something where you could say, then I can take that and use that to get on other podcasts, for example. But if I just came to you and I said, tell me about your experience with me being on the podcast, you'd be like, all right, well, you could go any one of 100 directions, and it would be feedback that could be valuable for me on how I got on podcasts and what I did the next time. But the marketing piece, to me, that's the recommendation or the referral.
Yeah. That's a really insightful piece. And it's interesting. The song comes to mind. I don't even know what it's called, but Mo Money, Mo Problems. It might even be the name of the song, right? I, I agree with that. I mean, you talk about like walking up to a billionaire and saying, like, okay, what problem do you have? And like their mind is gonna go, dude, I have like 60 problems that arose in the last 2 minutes,
Yep.
right? What
Yep.
problem do you really want me to solve? Right. And like I think a lot of times we forget that of like how to ask for not only feedback, but how to ask and provide what they actually need. I've
Mhm.
found, Chip, like bring them on my show. That's been really valuable for me is bring people onto my show and just hearing where they're at in business. And then I just know that they have 3 or 4 big problems at every stage of a company. And so it's pretty easy for me to identify, hey, you're probably struggling with this, right? It sounds like you're trying to launch this, and launching that, you're probably going to need these different resources. It's
Mhm.
so easy for me to recommend other people or put my services like in the door with them because I know what's going on in the company, right? Thank you, computer. Such loud notifications. Anyways, I think that it's so. I think the approach you're taking with it is something that I think everybody should be looking at with themselves and saying, okay, how do I how do I implement this? But I think the big question a lot of them are going to be asking, Chip, is how are you getting in the door with a lot of these people? Even now, like it's easier once you have a reputation, but is it truly like through referrals typically, or how are you getting in the door with these people?
Yeah, word of mouth is absolutely the gold here. And I stumbled into a couple of things that really kind of changed my life without even knowing that I was doing it right. One was when I first started doing events. In order to fill the event, I'd be like begging friends and family to be like, come fill a seat. I mean,
Yeah,
like
I
I
need a
need
body in
20,
this seat.
I need 20 people here and I can only get 4 to come. So I need like, but over time, what's interesting is that I started growing bigger and bigger audiences, but I continued to have friends and people that really believed in me that were there. And I started to realize that, the people, if you bring people in with you that love you and are your advocates and they're talking about you, then other people tend to start to feel that same way. And I have this, it's almost the 80-20 ratio where 20% of the people that I have at my event are people that love me. And every time they see me, we hug, it's a true, genuine connection both ways.
Right.
But what happens is people that don't know you, when they're talking to you in a room and 1 out of every 4 people or 1 out of every 8 people, 10 people, whatever, I'm not, I'm throwing out random numbers here, right?
It's
But,
arbitrary. Go
but,
ahead.
but often I have at events, even a third of the event could be people that love me and, love my work, love what I've done. And if you're talking to somebody and that you don't know, and every couple minutes someone's coming by and giving me a hug or saying, "Hey, how are you?" and being genuine, right? You can feel that in the energy. Other people start to see that trust, and it's a way to build trust with new people at a very rapid scale. To me, when people say, "What's the best way to get to know a billionaire?" is the best way to get to know a billionaire is to genuinely have a connection with a billionaire who then introduces you to one of their friends and in essence pulls you inside that circle of trust. And that's at any level, right? Billionaires are one that people love to talk about, but you go anywhere and you find someone to trust you and you move into that space. I often, for me, like we are all human. And the favorite thing or one of the things that I often look at is how do you treat the people that can't do anything for you?
Right.
And, when I go to the gym, the people that I connect with the most are the people that know the names of the janitors and the staff that work there, right?
Right.
When they take the time to be like, they know their name and not just their name, but they know their kids, what their kids are doing. I'll work with that person like almost every time. Right.
Right.
So it's about connecting. And when you connect with someone genuinely, no matter what level they're at, they see that and they feel that, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, people are people. My 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 youngest son for years ago when he was probably 9 or 10, he's like, Dad, you don't work. It's like you just hang out with famous people and go to parties. and and I'm
Right.
like,
Yeah, pretty much.
I'm like, Bud, would you want me to do something that I don't enjoy? Right. Like it. And so if you truly step into that space of what you love and what you enjoy, uh, it really changes the game. People say, you know, do your passion and like work in your passion, whatever else. Right. Like I actually, there's a lot of truth to that, but there's also this part where it's like, I try and separate those a little bit because I love to do what I love to do without worrying about what that means from a financial standpoint. So
Right.
one of my passions is to make as much money as I can in as little time as I can. Right.
Right.
So if I have that passion, then I can also go over here and I can be like, another one of my passions is I love connecting. And now because I have revenue streams set up, I don't have to worry about whether or not I'm making money in this relationship. I am genuinely just building a relationship because that's what I love to do. Um, you know,
See, I'm gonna interrupt you for 2 seconds just to highlight
interrupt.
this
Yeah.
quick. So you just said something beautiful right there that I hope everybody will take note of. Is it's not about like when your kids are asking you, "What do you do?" Like, what's like, and people say, "Do what you're passionate about." You would disagree, and I actually genuinely disagree as well. It's more about who do you want to spend time with, and figure out what they need and just give it to them. It doesn't matter because if you like them, you'll scrub their toilet. You
Yeah.
know, I
Yeah.
genuinely love this person. I'm willing to do whatever it takes
Yeah.
to be in
And,
around them.
Sean Finnegan is, who we talked about, one of the best connectors out there and
Right.
most amazing humans I know. He said once we were talking and he said, it's like, if you want your friends to become your best friends, go into business with them. And that goes against the grain of a lot of people where they're like, oh, don't mix business and pleasure or don't mix friendship and business. Right. And when I hear that, I think of marriage, right? Most marriages end in divorce. And that's not even measuring relationships. That's just measuring the people that actually signed a paper that said they wanted to
Right.
get married and then got divorced. If you talk about people getting into relationships and how many relationships end, then, and you said, well, most relationships end, so don't get in a relationship. Like for me, business is the same way. The reason that relationships end, the reasons that business partnerships end is usually comes down to clarity, communication, and a number of other things that are different than, it's not going into business that is the problem. It's going into business without clarity and communication and these other pieces that creates the problem. So I love the idea of working with people that you enjoy being around. You're going to spend most of your waking time is going to be people that you are creating something with.
Right. I love that. And yeah, it's funny because for me, when I recognize that shift in my own company and realizing, hey, instead of just trying to provide a service, why don't I just figure out what group I want to be around, just give them what they want, right?
Yep.
And a lot of people they'll even look at us and go, oh, you change your offerings, you have like a new thing every quarter. I'm like, yeah, because they need something new every quarter, right? There's something different they want, and I love that lifestyle, And yeah, maybe we're not going to grow it to a multi-billion-dollar company, but um, it's such a fun place to be because for me, all I have to do is listen to people and hear what they want and provide it to them.
Yeah.
It's a game changer. And
Yeah. I actually,
sure.
again, my answer to many questions is almost any question is it depends, right? It depends on what the situation is. It depends on where you need to be. I do agree. There's a real, uh, good philosophy behind having to define this is the offering that I have and this is what you can get.
Right.
But on the other side of that coin, I love when I have known people for years and they come to me and they say, you know what? I still really don't know what it is that you do. Right. Because they know me as a human and they connect with me and they know the people that I know. Like people will come to me and they'll be like, everyone, which, isn't true. There's 8 billion people on the planet, but it's a common belief that if we're in a room and someone comes up to you and says hello, people will be like, Chip knows everybody. If someone in the room comes up and they say, do you know Chip? And the person says no, the other person acts shocked and it's like, wow, I never meet anybody that doesn't know Chip. But that's just like, it's just those things that become who we are. And that knowing people and connecting with people, knowing their story is something that is far more valuable to me than having everybody know that I write books or I run masterminds or that I do those different types of things. So,
Right. See, and I think you'll eventually find a lane. And like for us, it's 100% on the lead gen side, right? So we're
Mhm.
lead generation. And when I found that was like our lane, we've stuck with it. I want to kind of go back in the conversation a little bit though with you is you were talking about, it's just such a good point. I hope that we can just hit it again so people really understand it, is that you talked about going up to a billionaire, right? We're just gonna use a billionaire because it sounds like a moonshot for a lot of people, right? Or a famous actor, actress, or whatever. But um, if you can meet that person, in any environment, instead of what you talked about was like, instead of trying to sell to them directly, you're saying, I'm going to become this person's friend so that they will refer me other people. And obviously that sounds a little bit crass, but like knowing that you're not going to sell directly to that person, I think that's where a lot of people fail is they're like, man, I just don't get referrals. I don't get invited into other people's circles. And I think it's because every relationship becomes, how do I get the dollar out of that relationship, instead of how do I, build a relationship with this person so they're constantly sending me new people in their circle. I
or
thought it was
or
just
bringing you into the circles, right? Like,
right.
Sean Finnegan is a great example. He and I have talked a number of times about doing work together. Nothing's come of it, but that's because that wasn't the main focus of why we connected. We connected because we like being around each other. We like similar things. We have similar goals and aspirations of growth. And, that's how I met you, who's coming to
Right.
one of the events that Sean put together. It was just really, really good people. And to me, everybody talks about money, but to me, more important than the financial currency is relationship currency, your relationships, social connections, your relationships with others. To me, that's far more valuable than money. And, we were in a room full of probably 40 of the most influential people in Utah. Right. And we were there to genuinely connect with humans and to get to know people. And to me, that's what it's about. I enjoyed that room similar to the way I enjoy going and, I've served in groups where we go and we help with prisons, or we meet with homeless people, or we sit with them, and everybody has a story, and everybody, we all share the common needs of, we want to be seen, heard, understood, right? We want to know or feel that we matter. And that's the same, whatever group you're in, right? It
Right.
doesn't matter if they've had huge success or not, right? One of the reasons that we tend to gravitate towards some of these people is that we want to create meaning at scale, and when you can surround yourself with people that have, then tends to like resonate with you.
Right. Yeah, that's so good. Well, and I just want to highlight a point here about your career, Chip, and I don't know if you've even noticed this about yourself, but uh, having the network that you do and having solved such a great problem, and like you said, like hearing people's stories, telling people's stories, being able to be that guy has allowed you to launch multiple different projects. I mean, I'm just going to tease this one out there for you
Yeah.
guys. This guy's literally going to build a cruise ship. So we're just going to throw it out there. It's going to be the coolest thing ever. We'll have him back on to talk about that later. But, you know, big audacious projects like this, right? And you're able to do that because you have the network that you do. And I mean, does that help you feel like a little bit more secure as an entrepreneur, just knowing that, hey, you know what, no matter what I'm selling, I'm going to be okay?
Yeah, that's another answer where it depends, right? Because
Right.
part of me is like, if I'm feeling secure, then I'm not pushing hard enough.
Good
Um,
point.
if I feel comfortable, then what am I going to do to get to the next level? In order to be good at something, you've got to suck at it first, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I
Amen.
actually just started taking a social dance class, a ballroom. Zook is what it's called.
Yeah.
And I love to dance. I love um, solo dancing by myself. You can put me on any dance floor and I'll just feel that beat vault from me. But dancing with a partner is something that is still foreign to me. I've done it in the past, but I feel like I have two left feet. But it's that pushing myself into being uncomfortable. And I found myself not in spaces of being uncomfortable. And so I found something that put me in that space again. And that to me is where growth happens. So, um, you know, again, that's when you talk about security, am I secure in myself? Absolutely. But if I'm not pushing outside of that, then I'm not making something happen.
Right. Right. And I agree with that completely. That's a really honest response, which I appreciate that. Um, so Chip, we've actually gone over on time here, but you've been given some really good nuggets. I hope people will be able to take these and go get a win. So I do want to ask you, could you give us one final little 5 minute, 10-minute strategy somebody could use to go get a quick win today?
Yeah. A 5-minute strategy to go get a win.
Yeah, 5 to 10 minutes.
Okay.
a quick win, something they can do either internally or externally to go get a win.
Yeah. So one of the best things that I recommend to people is you already have in your network people that can help you move your goals forward. And if you're not clear about the goals that you want, then if you're not out trying to achieve your goals, then you're going to just be achieving someone else's goals.
Right.
So know what you want and then start to, go through your contact list and say, who do I know that will be able to help me move to where I want to be and what do they need? And if you can go through and make that list, right? This isn't about saying, okay, who can I capitalize on in my relationships? It's like, who do you want to be? Where do you want to be? And if you're like, I want to be on stage, then you need to be hanging around people that are going to inspire and motivate and move you towards that. So my one thing that I would say is find the people in your network now and reach out to them, even just to connect. Say hello. I'd love to go to lunch. I'd love to get together. Um, if they're busy and you don't have a close relationship, you want to come up with a purpose and a reason to meet. But I guarantee you have a lot of friends in your network that need things that you can provide and have things that will help you move forward. So, that, Russell Brunson talks about his dream 100, right? And to me, I think problem a lot of people make, and again, this is a depends answer because I'm constantly pushing to get that next level, right? I'm trying to get with Oprah. I'm trying to get with certain presidents. That you always have that level of where you're reaching to move to a group that you want to be a part of. But then there's this level that is beyond where you are, but it's not in this moonshot level, right? And it's that group of people that will most quickly help you move where you want to go. So when I talk about a Dream 100, I actually have tiers with that, right? I have my moonshot tier, and then I have my today tier. And my moonshot tier, I'm cultivating them every day, but my today tier, I'm trying to take action to move something that's going to move the needle for me today.